Hi, my name's Joe Hall. I'm a BPI certified professional. What we're going to discuss today is duct inspection for home inspectors, and we're also going to talk about duct sealing materials, what materials are appropriate, what materials are not. Believe it or not, duct tape is not one of those materials. We're going to set up some test equipment. We're going to use a RetroTech duct tester. We're going to pressurize the duct system and look for leaks. So when you're inspecting a duct system, a lot of times you'll see duct tape on the system. It's been there for years. A lot of times it's lost its adhesive properties. It's just hanging. We want to make sure that, the ducts are sealed. Duct tape, believe it or not, is not an acceptable material to use. One of the things that you might want to look for are UL 181. So this aluminum tape is UL 181 approved. That's approved for duct sealing. One of the products that we're going to be using today when we test the ducts is duct mastic. This is also UL 181 approved. For sealing ductwork up as well, if mastic by itself is good for spaces 1/4 inch or less. Anything larger than 1/4 inch, we're going to want to use mesh tape. One of the reasons we want to use UL 181 mastic is it does not dry solid. It maintains a little bit of flexibility. When the systems run, there's going to be some rattling and shaking caused by the air handler. That's going to cause the system to vibrate. If our sealer is too brittle, it's going to crack. One of the other things too that I look for on duct systems, if you're, let's just go over duct inspection right now before we even start sealing. So one of the things that we want to look at is we want to make sure that where all the ducts, the different pieces are connected, we want to make sure that they're sealed, the system is tight as possible. Here on these flex ducts, we've got a little bit of UL 181 aluminum tape on here. There is no mastic on the inside. Most of the time, this tape here is not specified for this particular connection. You're going to want to use mastic and a zip tie to seal it. This particular joint here has not been screwed together. We want at least 3 screws per joint. A lot of times it is to hold this seam together, so we want to make sure we have at least 3 screws per cavity. Just a lot of the stuff that you can find with your eyes. In the older homes, you're going to see the floor joist that was used as a cold air return. There'll be some end panning there. There'll be a lot of gaps in the corners. Cause a lot of problems. One, carrying contaminants from crawl spaces, things like that into the home. Lots of dust, dirt, debris, and even some areas radon can be carried and distributed into the home through those gaps. With the new IECC 2009, that's the International Energy Code 2009, builders are not allowed to use building cavities as duct systems anymore. They can use the cavity itself, but it has to be fully ducted. So yeah, there's many different things. You think that they're sealed, like this one here may be tight. It may not be. This one's been hit with tape. There's a lot of small gaps there. I have some testing equipment that we will use. So why do we want to inspect the duct system? So we can have a 95% efficient furnace on a very leaky duct system. If the duct system leaks, we're not going to get that 95% efficiency out of this total system. We want to make sure that the system is sealed so it delivers the conditioned air where we want it. We also want to make sure it's sealed so it draws it from the house. It's very expensive. Say our duct system is outside the thermal boundary. If we're drawing unconditioned air in from outside and we're having to heat that up and deliver it to the house, that's going to reduce our efficiency even more, as well as carry the contaminants. It's a lot more efficient to sit there and take some of the air, the 65-degree air, out of the house, warm it up a little bit, and deliver that back to the spaces, the conditioned spaces that we need. So as a home inspector, what I would look for is to make sure that the system is sealed. One, make sure there is no duct tape. Duct tape, it works great for NASCAR. It's not so good for ducts. There's 101 uses for duct tape. Duct sealing isn't one of them. One of the things I would look for, I'd look at the seams, make sure that, there again, we talked about it, that they're screwed and they're secure. We don't want the ducts falling apart. We want to make sure that all the joints are sealed, right? There's a lot of gaps. I can see a lot of gaps in here. Even these seams, believe it or not, we'll look at this one here. The seams on this one where the ducts are put together, these leak as well. These joints here as well leak. There should be mastic on the seams. So if not, if the gaps are bigger, we'll use mastic and mesh tape. We'll go through and seal some ducts here in a little bit. We'll show you how to seal them up. We'll get some numbers as well when we run the duct tester. One of the things that I see when I'm looking and inspecting ducts is they may have been sealed, but when I'm teaching people how to seal ducts, I see a lot of ducts that have been duct painted, right? They'll just take one swipe through of mastic around, and the mastic will dry, and I'll still see a gap. They've painted the joint, they haven't sealed. So I always try and teach people to use it like a trowel, push the mastic in there. Make sure, that the joint is in fact sealed. Even these little rings on this elbow, these leak, they should be sealed as well. Cool, so what I want to do now is hook up the duct testing equipment. I'm going to use a Retrotech duct tester. There are many other pieces of equipment out there. I like Retrotech. They're very intuitive, very easy to use. So here we go. So we got this piece here. We're going to use it. Turned it again. I really can't avoid that. The premise behind this, using the duct tester, is we have a fan. We're going to seal off the deliveries. We're going to attach this fan to the return side. We're going to create a pressure differential in the duct system. And then because we know the size of the metered holes and the pressure, we can extrapolate and we can quantify how leaky this duct system is. One of the things there, with the new IECC codes, there are leakage rates for duct systems. You can test the duct system out to say whether it passes or fails, meets the International Energy Code. So I'm going to sit there and attach this. Generally, we attach this to the return side. I've got to get some more of my tape over here. So we attach the fan to the return side. We can use various different kinds of tape. I like carry masking tape with me. Seems to work really well. I have tape specifically used for sealing up the delivery ends as well. But if you're working in production homes, say you've got a builder that uses the same furnace, you can build yourself a template as well. So the reason I do this is when I'm doing an energy audit, I like to, there's two reasons that I'll test duct equipment. One is I'm testing out so someone can get their certificate of occupancy. I'm trained and certified that I know how to use this piece of equipment. Some municipalities require that for certificates of occupancy. When I come out, it helps me diagnose problems. I can tell how good the duct system is sealed. I quantify it. I can prove that the system has been sealed. One, I'm trying to solve efficiency problems for people. I'm trying to solve comfort issues, right? Finding duct leakage in disconnected floor cavities, duct disconnections, things like that. Once the system is sealed, I can run another duct test to prove that I've actually sealed the system. Usually, most of the customers, though, are concerned with comfort, want to make sure the house is working. Cool, so I'm going to attach this hose to the transition piece. You got you got that one in there still. There we go. This one used to be attached. Student decided it needed to fit. It didn't need to be on there. So realize as well that this is a model. generally we don't want that big a turn in it when we're putting it on. There we go. All right, so we're going to seal that to the cold air return. One of the things that we're going to do now, I'm going to take my duct mask, moving over here to this. We would seal off all the deliveries in a home. Many different products for doing this, but we want to seal off all the intentional holes in our system. Cool, we got that. So I'm going to hook up this piece of equipment. I might come in after a home inspection has been done if someone's determined that the ducts were leaky. Most of the reason why I come in, I work for utility programs. People want to make sure they want to reduce their energy bills, or, like I said earlier, diagnose comfort issues. If somebody's having some discomfort, the system's not working, not heating or cooling their home, I'll come in and use my diagnostic tools to determine what the problem is, then rectify the problem, and then test in and we test in and we test out. We want to make sure that the work that we've done is effective. There we go. I've got this one attached. If you notice, there's an arrow on here for airflow. For me personally, I like to depressurize the duct system if I'm getting a number. If I want to make sure that the system is sealed and meets the code, I like to depressurize the system. The reason I do that is a lot of times I'll work in new construction. It's dusty, dirty, the tape's not going to stick. If I pressurize the system, then I'm running around trying to make sure that all the tape's back on. So if I'm just getting a number, I like to depressurize the system. If I'm looking for leaks, one of the things I like to do, I like to pressurize the system and use my calibrated hands, and then I can go through and feel where the leaks are. I have some other products that I'm going to use. I'm going to use some smoke to help me find or demonstrate where the leaks are in this particular system. Let me grab my manometer. So here's my manometer. This is a DM32. I've got a number of tools that I can use and a number of tests that I can use this particular piece of equipment for. I like Retrotech's. It's a pretty intuitive piece of equipment. I also like the fact that they've got color-coded ports. Makes it a lot easier to set up, makes it a lot easier to train people to set the thing up. So I'm going to hook this up. I got this communication port. I like to let the machine run the fan. It's a lot easier for it to run it than I. So this one here, yellow hose to the yellow port, green hose to the green port. I have my blue hose, and I have a blue port. This is the one that's going to measure the pressure in the system. There again, we can either pressurize or depressurize the system, but we do have to measure it. We create a known pressure difference of 25 pascals. That way, if everybody does them at 25 pascals, we can make some inference on the leakage rate of the system. So this blue hose goes into the delivery side. We can either use a delivery that we've sealed. A lot of times if I'm working in a basement, I will drill a small hole in the delivery plenum. Remember that this fan would be hooked up to the return side. Either return grill upstairs, if they had one big enough, or I can take off the air handler compartment and attach it there. So I'm going to get ready. Fairly simple again. 25 pascals is what we test ducts at. Go to 25. Try not to step on your hose. That helps. Cool, there we go. We're depressurizing the system. We're getting closer to 25 pascals. Nice thing about this particular piece of equipment is if we get close, I can take that, put it on the at sign, and it'll calculate what my duct leakage rate is at 25 pascals. So this particular system, we're leaking 123, 122 CFM cubic feet per minute at a pressure difference of 25 pascals. Fun thing about energy and what we're doing here is we're mixing the metric system, and we're mixing the imperial measurement system. A lot of my blower door numbers, duct leakage numbers, are my leakage rate in cubic feet per minute at a pressure difference of 25 pascals. So if on reports you see anything, you see 25 PA, and then this many cubic feet per minute, that's basically how you read a duct blaster number. Same goes for blower door numbers. Those are done at 50 pascals. If you see 50 pascals, cubic feet per minute at a leakage rate of 50 pascals, that's a blower door number. Helps you quantify that leakage. So what I'm doing now, I'm gonna go get some test equipment, some other equipment here. Get my handy dandy smoke stick. This is one of the things that I can do, helps me find duct leakage. See how that smoke's being sucked in? That lets me know that that joint's not sealed. I can do the same thing up here. This one has been sealed. If you want to come around this side, you can see where, if you look right here, see how that smoke's being sucked in? You'd sit there, if you looked at it, you said, this joint's been sealed with tape. But because the tape has not been pushed on, it's still leaking. All right, so one of the things I do, especially, let me turn this one off. One of the things that I can do too in basements, if you think you've got cold air leakage or leaks, a lot of times you're gonna have to stick your head up in places full of spider webs that you don't wanna be. When they put the duct system together, it looks like, generally, if it looks like it was hard to seal, it probably wasn't. I said earlier that I don't want to use duct tape. I'm not going to use duct tape on any of the joints. I'm wearing gloves primarily for the mess. This UL 181 mastic, it's more or less like Elmer's glue and wood fibers or paper. It's a nice product. It's not really all that toxic. Before you use a product, make sure you read the MSDS. Or nowadays, it's the SDS, the safety data sheet. But I'm just wearing this because I don't want the mess. I've got a big gap here that's larger than a 1/4 inch. Got a really big hole there. I'm going to use mesh tape on that because I could sit there and stuff this whole bucket in that small hole and it wouldn't do me any good. Okay, yeah, it's, you know, I was looking for duct sealing. I just want to make sure the joint's sealed completely. There again, that it's not just been painted, but that is truly sealed. And there again, if the gap is big, I want to see that they use mesh tape. I want to see that they used enough material on it that it's sealed. I'll show you an example. Yeah, like a not so good example. I'm going to take my paintbrush here. And this is what I see a lot, where they say people have paid for duct sealing and they've just painted. So they do that. They take a couple of swipes around that joint and I'll see the mastic. But then I'll go up for a closer inspection. If I take a look, they didn't do anything to work the mastic into that joint there at all. It's usually, sometimes it's painted on so thin that when the mastic dries, it'll dry and crack and it won't even be sealed. So I like to seal it, make sure it's sealed. Right, this has been worked in. Cool, and then try and just clean it up at the end, make it look nice for the customer. We'll go all the way around. So work that in. Make sure I'm working the mastic in that joint. And then just kind of maybe do a finish, make it look nice. When you're doing the mastic work, it's just always try and clean it up, make sure it looks good. If you drop some on the floor, clean it up so you don't step in it and carry it other places. These joints too, they leak as well on these adjustable elbows. We want to make sure we get that mastic worked in there. These are the smaller leaks. Generally when I'm duct sealing, I'm going to start on obviously the larger leaks that I can see. So we're going to use some mesh tape on this one. Yeah, just cut a square. We use the mesh tape. It kind of gives that gives it a little bit of body, something to work on. I like the sticky backed mesh tape. That way it sticks to the ducts a little bit better. Otherwise I got to run some mastic across it, and it just gets messier. So if I'm looking for duct system that's sealed, let me get this piece here all the way. Do that. Cool, got that one there. So then I'm gonna work this mastic in. I wanna make sure all the holes are filled. Basically what the mastic does is gives it body, gives the mastic some body, the ability to sit there and seal a leak that's larger than 1/4 inch. There are standards for duct sealing, the standard work specifications, the SWS that put together by NRAIL, they require mastic and mesh tape on anything larger than 1/4 inch. It's also a BPI standard. Nice thing about duct sealing as well, this mastic is thick enough that while you're sealing, after you hit the bigger holes, you can go through while you're using your calibrated hands to find the leakage. You can have low pressure running through the system, and then you can seal it up. Just it's not so great that it'll blow the mastic right back out of the holes. All right, cool. So I'm going to go through, I guess, and seal it up on the bottom here as well. There again, when I'm looking at inspecting a duct system too, one of the rules of thumb that I use is if it looks like it was hard to seal, it probably wasn't. All right. There we go. All right, so we've just sealed up some of the larger holes. We're going to see if we've made any progress. We started out at 122. Looks like we have made considerable progress. We're already at 25 pascals. Just a little work that we did. We dropped it from 122 cubic feet per minute at 25 pascals. We're down to 47. Depending on the size of the home, this duct system may have passed. We could probably seal it down a little bit more. We've got the smaller leaks. When we're looking at it, I always like, when I'm duct sealing, try and hit the bigger ones first. Let's test some of these joints. We'll take a look at it that they were leaking before. We'll smoke them now. Do self-test on our work. All right, so this one was leaking before. We put the mastic on that aluminum tape. We've sealed up that hole completely. We had a really large gap here. Let's see how we did. And stay off your tube. Oh. Yeah, don't step on your hoses. Affect your readings. All right, cool. So we can take a look here, see how we did, smoke that joint. All right. So a lot of times too, we want to make sure that these seams where the individual pieces of pipe are buckled together, want to make sure that those are sealed as well. So here's the one here we didn't seal. You can still see there's some air moving through the system. So depending on what side of the duct system it's on, instead of a duct system, it could be a contaminant distribution system. The tighter we seal the duct work up, it has a great effect on people's homes, reduces the dust level in their houses. We're not drawing contaminants from other parts of the home. If your duct system's run through your attic space, we're not distributing pieces of fiberglass throughout the rest of the building. So I like to see my duct system sealed. The air that's running inside them is expensive. We paid to put it in a certain condition. And I'd like to see that, that it gets delivered to the house that way. As a home inspector, what I would look for is make sure that the ducts have been sealed. Make sure all the joints have been hit with the mastic. Make sure that they weren't painted. Make sure that there was actually, it's in the system, there was enough mastic on the joint to actually seal it. This particular joint has not been sealed. This joint here has not been sealed. There's a large gap there. Look for large gaps. Remember that if it looks like it was hard to seal, it probably wasn't. Take a look. If you see the system needs sealing, call me. I'll come out and do an energy audit. We can test the system. We can see how leaky the system is. We can seal it up, and then we can prove that the system has been sealed sufficiently with a post-test. So I'm Joe Hall of Joe Hall Energy Consulting. I'm here at the House of Horrors. We'll see you next time.